now it's January, and those early accomplishments fade into memory like an old-time movie. There have been plenty of star performances, but now the location shifts. It's time for conference play, and the Hawks take it from the top against preseason favorite Indiana and the league's all-time winningest coach, the legendary Bob Knight. Iowa, Indiana next. Raycom presents Big Ten Conference Basketball. This game is brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Norwest Banks, to the nth degree. During Act 1, the Iowa Hawkeyes were a question mark. But their December play in the pre-conference schedule earned rave reviews, winning all but 2 games and beating 2 rated foes. Tonight at Carver Hawkeye Arena, it's the start of Act number 2 of the conference season. It's Iowa against Indiana. Very pleasant good evening, everyone. This is Larry Morgan. There is a sellout crowd tonight at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And Mac McCausland, we may as well get right to the point and talk about point guards. Point guard play, always important. Tonight it may be vital.
It's going to be point counterpoint for these two teams. Iowa has Andre Woolridge, who the last 4 games has gone off for 17, 16, 14, and 13 points. But more than that, he's given team leadership. The team now believes in him. Before the Duke game and tip-off, he went to the starters and said, I got the Hawks by 10. Who's going with me? They went out. They beat Duke by 10. And now, this is the freshman guard for Indiana. Neil Reed comes from a basketball background, coaching the family. He understands the game. But can he take the Iowa pressure? We're going to find out tonight. Neil Reed had 5 turnovers in 200 minutes of play in 1 streak. He's going to look for a lot of pressure. Will he have turnovers? Iowa will need to get the turnover if they're to have success. And let's find a ticket in this place. There's none left, Larry.
None left at all. Both these teams are young, both looking for a confidence boost. A win tonight could give it to them. Coming up next, the starting lineups in Iowa into the games they have played here in Big Ten play. Bob Knight and Tom Davis, the Masters. Davis, all-time winningest coach at Iowa. Knight, all-time winningest coach in Big Ten history. The starting lineups for the Hawkeyes have changed. Bartle's not in the lineup for the first time as a starter this season, as a bad back should play some. For Indiana, the stars, of course, are at the top, Evans and Henderson. They have 2 freshman guards, Reed and Herman. Be interesting to see how they stand up to Hawkeye pressure tonight. So it's Iowa and Indiana, number 22 against number 21. The Hawkeyes 10-2.
Tonight in the Indiana Hoosiers here on Raycom.
They're ready, and it should be a wide-open Big Ten race, and that's why this game is so important. Tom Davis knows that Indiana will be a tough way to start conference season. He takes a look at what he expects tonight from the Indiana Hoosiers.
Year in and year out has been one of our premier teams in the Big Ten. I don't think this year's any exception. You look at Henderson and you look at Evans inside, but they're usually a total package. So to beat Indiana, you've got to play one of your best ball games, and that's not only true here tonight, but that's true year in and year out.
Jess settles back in the starting lineup after not starting since the Iowa State game. Back is better. With Bartles out, he moves back into the starting lineup.
But Settles still has the brace on. He will have it there as Jim Bartles has to sit down because of his bad back.
Bowen out jumps Henderson, and the Hawkeyes have the ball first.
Not a surprise, Indiana man-to-man defense. They use it almost exclusively. Once in a while, they'll sneak into a zone just to kind of mess up your offensive continuity.
Murray has it stuffed by Lindemann. And Indiana will bring it up the floor. They are on a 6-game winning streak. They got off to a 1-3 start. They're worse than 76-77. But since then, they have turned it around, including a big win over Kansas.
Both teams really found themselves after the season started. Iowa, they found themselves in Hawaii, while Indiana lost themselves in Maui to start the year.
And then they found themselves back in the Midlands. Kingsbury on the steal. Neither team has scored. The game 45 seconds old as Kingsbury walks. Jody Sylvester, Burl Sell, and Randy Drury are working this Big Ten showdown as Bob Knight looking for career victory number 649 tonight.
You can see some defensive philosophy. Indiana comes up chest to chest on Kingsbury as the steal by Murray, the basket. But Indiana is going to challenge Chris Kingsbury to put the ball on the floor.
Iowa's leading scorer pops for the first 2. Now Henderson, the leading scorer for the Hoosiers, answers. Henderson ranks second in the league in scoring. Settles ranks fourth. Settles against Henderson. Superstar versus superstar. And underneath in the scrap for the rebound, the game's first foul was spotted. But so far it's been a story of defense and steals.
You look at the ball pressure. Settles makes it difficult angle to get that ball to a wing. Kenyon Murray sticks a hand in, and then the recovery for Settles and the basket.
Murray with the game's first foul, and against pressure, Lindemann takes the inbounds feed.
Boy, is that a great shot up above looking at Iowa pressure.
Here's a terrific shooter, and Evans was tops in the league last year in three-point shooting. Misses that time, but a foul is called underneath against Indiana. The team fouls now are even at one as the push is spotted against Todd Lindemann, his first.
That's a good blockout by Ryan Bowen, who has to give about 3 inches to Lindemann at the defensive end. And you've got Henderson on Settles, and Henderson has fouled out 3 times this season. So Hawkeyes may try and get Henderson a little foul problem.
In the man-to-man, it is Herman, the freshman, who's drawn Kingsbury, Iowa's hot shooter, who got 30 against Hawaii. Murray tries to work his way around Lindemann. Settles working against Henderson. Matchup of the stars. The steal by Neil Reed, and the freshman guard brings it up for Indiana. Game's tied at 2.
That was good defense by Indiana. Get the man to go baseline. Settles did. Then they cut him off. He had nowhere to go with that basketball. That's ideal clinic defense by Indiana.
Off the baseline, the freshman Herman misfires, and Settles has the rebound. So far, this game reminds you of any other Indiana-Iowa games you've seen, or maybe most of them?
Like every one of them.
Murray left open, and the rebound is snared by Lindemann. The 7-footer with his second rebound. Reed, nice dish down to Lindemann, who does not get the roll, and Kingsbury gets the rebound.
Lindemann's got to finish that off for Indiana. You can't have a 7-footer laying that ball up like that. You got to finish it off.
Now Henderson watching Kenyon Murray. Bowen being guarded by Brian Evans. Lindemann now watching Settles. And a foul is called. Jody Sylvester on the call as he spots the foul on the block by Ryan Bowen. Bowen trying to set a screen, commits his first foul. The Hawkeyes guilty of their second.
Bowen had established good position and then leaned his chest into the player. The official looking for the call, able to find it on that one.
This is an awfully young Indiana ball club, Mac. 6 freshmen on the ball club, 5 of them first-year freshmen, and yet very talented.
They're very talented. Again, not much experience yet. A couple of them being redshirted. You know, last year they said Indiana, great recruiting class, but in reality it was not. This class is much better, much more athletic.
Glasper has it taken away from him by Neil Reed, and so far a defensive struggle.
Reed quick hands with the steal, that time in a strip. Now here this time, Glasper quick hands deflects and chases it down, unable to convert though.
Woolridge being crowded by Herman on the inbounds feed. Andre really playing well in Hawaii. Foul called against Herman. Team fouls are even at 2. Andre Woolridge really elevated his game at Hawaii. In fact, in the Rainbow Classic, he averaged 14 points and nearly 8 assists a game, at a career-high 9 assists against the Razorbacks.
Yeah, 2 of the games, the BYU-Hawaii game and also the Duke game, he just took this team on his shoulders, and they are broad shoulders, literally, figuratively, and was able to go through defenders and score just like that. Upper body strength gets that done.
4-2 Iowa. 16:30 in the first as Henderson pulls up over the freshman Greg Helmers.
A rush shot, a floating shot by your senior, something you wouldn't expect.
And Skillett puts it down, and he is fouled. Kevin Skillett gets good position on the baseline, and that enabled him to get the shot and have a chance at another one.
A pump fake by Iowa, able to get that ball up over somebody 6'10", and Henderson reaching across the arm. But it all started at the other end with Henderson taking that floating shot. Glasper just snarfs that ball into his hands and heads the other direction.
Iowa guards have been rebounding well. That's one reason why Iowa is out rebounding opponents by an average of 7 a game. On the other hand, Indiana out rebounding their opponents by 9 a game.
Kevin Skillet's really become a very reliable player for the Hawkeyes, being able to come in and spot people at 2 different positions.
A steady player, doesn't make mistakes, normally hits his free throws. That was only his 3rd miss of the year. Pat Knight has checked in for Indiana. He's seen more playing time for his dad in his senior year than he had in any of the previous years already. And it's a nice baseline feed from Evans, but Reed can't finish.
Iowa's getting beat on the backdoor side. That's a couple times, and people just unable to convert the simple layup.
Lasper and Kingsbury on the perimeter. Skillet, Helmers, and Bowen make up the rest of the Iowa lineup. There's a youthful look right now to the Hawks. 2 true freshmen in there. Helmers can't hang on.
And they can't get the ball up to even get a shot. Got to execute. You need to have a shot every time down court.
Indiana just 2 points in the first almost 5 minutes of this game. And Iowa's doing the job on the boards. 1 and done for the Hoosiers. And they've been cold, and Iowa's defense has been the story. This is Neil Reed, whose dad is an assistant coach for Tim Floyd at Iowa State, whose mom is in the stands tonight. Dad wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it. He had some coaching duties with Iowa State. But Neil Reed really is a player that Bob Knight's excited about.
Well, he's been, as they say, has the moxie about the game. He understands it. So far, he's been able to handle Iowa's pressure.
A defensive battle thus far. Indiana with only 1 bucket, and Iowa leads by 4. Indiana possession, they executed one of their all-time favorite plays.
Well, backdoor is an easy play to execute when you have pressure. Iowa tries to stop the ball as they go into the middle, and when they get there, defensive man looks at the ball but doesn't see his man go right behind him. Bounce pass, good execution, except for the finish. Always see your man, always see the basketball.
Indiana only 2 points in the game's first 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Knight and Reed along the back line. Henderson, Evans, and Lindemann up front for Indiana.
And Iowa now going to the zone, and believe it or not, Indiana's had trouble with the zone. They don't have near the shooters they've had other years. They've lost the Bailey, the Leary, the Graham of last year. And Iowa trying to finish a fast break.
And Ryan Bowen does just that, and the Hawkeyes have 4 baskets from 4 different players and lead 8-2.
Now, as you watch Indiana try and set up against the Iowa zone, you're going to see Evans and Reed are the 2 that have taken 85% of their 3-point shots. So you got 2 people to look at.
Lindemann has the size advantage, but he travels. The 7-footer shuffled his pivot foot. Turnover gives the ball to the Hawkeyes, who lead it by 6.
Coach Knight, Todd Lindemann, wondering where that call came from.
Momentary delay while Woolridge ties his shoe. We mentioned Jim Bartles, bad back, hasn't played so far. That's why you saw Greg Helmers with some of his earliest minutes. Kingsbury for 3. He's 0 of 2 at 3-point range. Bowen chases down the offensive rebound. Hawkeyes doing a good job on the boards at both ends.
And if you want to look at it, Bartles is the 10th man because he's sitting in the 5th position on the bench. Not good news for Iowa Hawkeyes. It's kind of hard for a lot of people to imagine. Jim Bartles was Iowa's leading rebounder in all 3 games in the Rainbow Classic. With all those great players, Jim Bartles able to use his height and his jumping ability to be the leading rebounder in each of those games.
Of course, he's the leading rebounder on the season for Iowa. Also the Big Ten steal leader. But again, he may see very limited action tonight.
He said he actually hurt the back. He thought maybe back in the Duke game and trying to take a charge. And played hurt out there.
When you play 3 in 4 days, no time to recover, and that only aggravates what you've got. In the middle, it's the 7-footer Lindemann. And again, Iowa crashing the boards, but this time Lindemann gets it on garbage and puts it through. Only the 2nd basket for Indiana. It comes at the 13-18 mark. Both teams playing tight early, and I think it's just because of the intensity when you start conference play.
Well, you start conference play, you're excited about that. You want to get a win. Both teams do for obvious reasons. And Settles just sets himself. Henderson does not go challenge. Similar to what happened at Maui, he didn't challenge 3-point shooters out there at the start of the year.
14th tray for Settles, and the block by Bowen. Now Settles wants to finish. They're shooting cold for both squads. And Evans, who averages 8.3 rebounds, tops on the Hoosiers, comes down with it. Here's Reed.
Reed slides right by Woolridge. Woolridge is probably too far underneath the basket to even take the charge. Settles last time on a fast break. Just not in good rhythm to be able to give it up and get it back from Woolridge.
We talked in December about how Jess Settles had really worked over the summer on improving his outside shooting so he can hit shots like this.
He just freezes Henderson, who stays off of him about 5 or 6 feet. That's something I'm sure Coach Knight not happy about. He wants Henderson to go out and challenge people on that perimeter.
And now the two all-conference performers are paired, Settles versus Henderson.
Andre Patterson, one of the top 5 high school players last year in the country, is in. Of course, he hurt his knee in the KU game.
And this will be the first return for Andre Patterson. He missed 3 games with the right knee sprain.
But talking to Indiana, they said he's just gotten back to the last 2 practices and really did not practice with a real intensity that they had hoped he could come back. They were going to try him a few minutes and see what kind of intensity he could bring to this game. He had a great 9 minutes in the KU game before he got the injury.
The ailing Jim Bartles has come in for the first time for the Hawkeyes. Steve Hart, number 23, in for Indiana. Neil Reed misfires, and the rebound by Kingsbury. Here's Bartles. He comes off the bench for the first time this year, and he hits his first shot. 13-6, Iowa by 7.
And he had a chance to face the basket. Bartles much more effective that way than he is. Whoa, a travel.
A big-time travel by Pat Knight. There was no question that time. Dad knew it. And we've got a timeout. 11 minutes, 44 seconds left to play in the first half. It's Iowa by 7. We'll be right back after this message from your local station. This is the Raycom Network. We go back to a play a moment ago that saw some good support defense by Iowa.
Yeah, Glassberg gets beat here by Neil Reed because of the screen by Andre Patterson. Helmers comes up. Good help. A floating shot by Reed. Now watch the rebound. You got 4 Iowa defenders right there getting it, and Glassberg calls for the ball to get the fast break going for the Iowa team.
Boy, recognizing those screens is always a key when you play the Hoosiers. Nice pass, Skillett to Helmers. Oh, what a pass by Skillett. Iowa has opened a 9-point advantage. The Hoosiers are ice cold.
Surprisingly breaking down the Indiana defense. Bob Knight said he thought this team would be a much better defensive team than last year's, but part of it is the inexperience.
Indiana really with no offensive rhythm, but here's a guy who can instantly establish it, but Henderson misses. Rebound by Patterson. Patterson and Bartles collide, going for it this time, and the foul is called on Patterson.
Not being able to finish again. Indiana in this half, Larry probably has missed 3 or 4 strong finish shots, unable to get the ball down. The Hawkeyes being able to get that inside. As you look at Skillett with a nice bounce pass. A little bounce off the floor. And Helmers finishes with 2.
Woolridge brings it ahead for the Hawks, who have a 6-game losing streak against Indiana. Last time they beat Indiana was the last time Indiana lost at Assembly Hall. Game I will never forget, back in '91. Hawkeyes won it by a point in overtime.
It was a great game. We got an opportunity to do that when it may have been one of the best games we've seen Iowa play. As there, Woolridge, we talked about him taking over a game. Opportunity to score off the screen.
Iowa, an 11-point lead against icy Indiana. Bartles with some hustle, and the Hawkeyes come up with it. Iowa off to a big start against Indiana.
And Bartles told us he would not dive on the floor for a ball tonight because his back hurts so much. He got that one and a 3.
Kingsbury, his 44th 3 of the year.
Kingsbury on the fadeaway from the corner.
Now Hart will bring it out as Indiana tries to establish some continuity. Patterson is 0 for 3. Rebound, grabbed by Helmers, his first.
And that time down court, 3 freshmen for Indiana handled the ball. They did not get to the senior, Henderson.
But the senior's really struggling, Mac. In 2 games last year, Henderson 12 out of 14 against the Hawks. Tonight he is icy. Now Kingsbury missed his first 2 threes, but you know he's not going to miss very long.
Kingsbury taking the ball off the dribble, jab, step, drive, and then fade away for the 3. And you're right, Henderson has to step up big for this team. He's a guy that's going to have to go off for 30 points some nights and just carry him. And right now, you're looking at a batch of freshmen out there. You got Charlie Miller, Herman, and Patterson. Brian Evans not getting back in the game since he's been taken out.
And you see Indiana, an un-Indiana-like 3 of 17. They're shot better than 50% as a team during their 6-game winning streak. But tonight, very, very cold. Iowa with a 9-point run. On the verge of blowing an Indiana team out. Not that you can ever really do that, but at least at this point in the proceedings.
This game has what you call 2 halves.
Yeah. And with 2 outstanding veterans in Evans and Henderson, Indiana is not a team that's going to panic. Glasper sees an opportunity, takes advantage of it.
Smart move, especially by a small player. When you come out in front of the glass, you want to take it off the glass, not try and lay it over the rim. Woolridge gets the bump, and nothing. Foul on Bowen.
Bowen fouled Patterson, his 2nd foul. Iowa as a team has 3. That's such great scoring distribution. So far, 8 Hawkeyes have scored, and only 2 Iowans have more than 1 basket.
But again, part of it is the system of Tom Davis. Pretty much equal opportunity in touches, and with the pressure, everybody has opportunities when the steal comes to finish off the fast break as Evans comes back in for Indiana. A little more experience against the press.
Hart almost throws it away, but Patterson runs it down. And then he throws it wide of Henderson. The turnovers really mounting against an Indiana team. Bob Knight says, you hold us, if we can commit only 12 turnovers, we're going to win. He's already committed a bunch of them, his team has.
Yeah, Patterson that time again has the shot opportunity, and he decides to go ahead and pass it, not completing the play. This is uncharacteristic of Indiana, completing the play at the basket.
It is now a 14-point run for the Hawkeyes. 25-6. Jess Settles has hit his 2nd tray.
And the net's kind of caught up. Now they've got it taken care of. Settles hit nothing but the bottom of. And now, Indiana, looking, as you said, Hawkeye fans want the blow, and they are trying to say, Indiana, put them away.
Henderson, as you mentioned, he has to step up. The Hoosiers knew that. Hart got him the ball.
And right back, 94 feet, and the finish by Settles. Andre Woolridge can take it 94 feet. He does it like Eric Snow of Michigan State.
He can go through people. First half for Settles.
The tempo, the rhythm right now is what Iowa wants. Indiana needs to settle it down, get back in the game with patience.
Patterson around Settles to score, and he is very talented, very athletic, 6'8", 230 pounds out of Abilene, Texas. Glasper quickly gets past Hart, so Hart reaches out and grabs it. First foul on Steve Hart.
And substitutes are becoming, that was a clear outside for Glasper. Had his man Hart one-on-one, and they are calling this game like we talked about in December. Would they allow hand checking or not? And no, they are not allowing the hand checking. You've got to play defense with your feet, with your legs, and with your body.
Kingsbury, one of his favorite spots on the floor. This time he darts inside, lost control of it. The walk against Kingsbury, and the Hoosiers have the ball. Exactly 8 minutes left to play in the first half. It has been all Iowa thus far. They're sizzling at both ends of the floor. The score, Iowa 27 and Indiana 10. We'll return to Carver Hawkeye Arena in just a moment. Nothing but net shot.
This is Monteer Glasper getting some help here from Woolridge, trying to get out of the way. Now Glasper comes, spins, and this will be the Glasper touch of glass as he puts it over Henderson at 6'10".
Brian Evans averages almost 19 points a game. He has not scored. Alan Henderson averages 25 points a game. He has scored only 4. There's a duo averaging 42 points, Mac, 4 so far. If Bob Knight does not get play from Evans and Henderson, he can't win, and he knows that. He told us that this afternoon.
Yeah, he said if his seniors can't step up to win the games, it's going to be a struggle because freshmen are not known to win in this league when you have a predominance of points or rebounding coming from that group.
Now we have the officials talking to Tom Davis. Bob Knight walks to the midcourt line to find out what the discussion concerns. See, the shot clocks are reset at 35. The game clock's where it should be at 8. So, Mac, I'm not sure what they're talking about.
I do not know.
Bob Knight and Tom Davis certainly have great respect for each other. A lot of wins between those two guys. Davis, 24 years, 447. ninth, 30 years, 648 victories. He's, by the way, 30-14 in his career against Iowa. And Tom Davis 4-12 against the Hoosiers. Well, it's an amiable discussion, I can tell you that.
I think one of the officials, it looks like Randy Drury, is leaving the court.
Yeah. That's what it is.
May have an injury or a situation.
So Jody Sylvester and Verl Sell will work as a duo now. And we've got a timeout with 8 minutes left to play in the first half. And we'll be back after this message from your local station. This is the Raycom Network.
Got a little palpitation of the heart. They said a little speedy situation. Certainly you don't want to take any kind of chances, so the trainers and doctors went with him. They were hoping to get it under control, and he might be back yet in this game. But right now they're just going to go with two officials, Sylvester and Sell, and that does make it difficult, especially when you've been used to the three-man crew for a number of years.
Hart will bring it up for the Hoosiers. He teams along with Evans, Henderson, Lindemann, and Charlie Miller.
And already there was a concern about the officiating. He traveled, he ran the baseline, and that was not made after a made shot.
Henderson made the bucket. Now, this delay can only help Indiana because the Hawkeyes were on fire prior to the break.
And already a disruption of their concentration because of the violation by Indiana, and neither official caught it.
And now the Hawkeyes will try to get back into sync. Bartles, Kingsbury, Murray, Settles, and Woolridge on the floor.
Now Settles can take Lindemann.
Lindemann kept his body between Settles and the basket. Woolridge now finds the open man, Murray.
Good-looking shot. And of course, Murray coming off maybe his best game as a Hawkeye in playing against Arkansas, getting 23 points, but he played with great confidence over in Hawaii.
Now every Hawk who has played has scored. 9 different Iowa players have scored. Hawkeyes could not be distributing the ball any better. Henderson, offensive foul. You mentioned, Mac, he's fouled out of 3 games this year. That is his second foul tonight.
It's going to be difficult now for him to keep playing aggressive, and there's 6:48 left to go. 2 Hawkeyes are there. Does he get 2 fouls for charging on 2? No, just 1.
Nice thought.
Hawkeyes have really played with great offensive continuity and confidence in this first half. Indiana has gone just the other direction. Not a lot of continuity, and they have taken, of course, Reed out of the game now, and he's been the guy that has had very few turnovers. And they're trying to go with Hart and
Settles
Charlie Miller.
Down, no call. Lindemann on the turnaround. Bartles scrapping for the rebound, and Iowa's leading rebounder on the season as his second in this game. He comes in averaging 7. A good no-look pass to Settles. Bartles puts it way too strong.
I'll tell you, the fans here won't understand because they're not aware of his bad back, and he says it is very difficult for him to raise his hands as Woolridge gets the steal, almost the steal.
And Hart takes it back. Just under 6 minutes to go in the first, 29-12 Iowa. Lindemann, when you're 7 foot and you're being guarded by a 6'5" player and they get you the ball, you ought to be able to finish, and he did. Hawks with a 15-point lead. Kingsbury is long on the 3. Settles able to save it by knocking it off Lindemann's knee, and more great hustle from Jess Settles.
That time a long shot by Kingsbury that was long, extended over on the other side where Settles could bat it, and Lindemann just not reacting and exploding to the ball, and an important game in the Big Ten race. I look Michigan State to be a contender, maybe the favorite. Illinois rolling over Ohio State could be a long year for the Buckeyes. But if Michigan State can get off to a win at Wisconsin, what confidence that will give Judd Heathcote in his final year and his team.
The other game in the league tonight, Penn State at Minnesota. Michigan opened last night with a 10-point win over Purdue at home. And the violation is spotted by Jody Sylvester on the inbounds effort. 5-second call against the Hawks, and so Indiana gets the ball back, and inbounding it will be Brian Evans.
And Kenyon Murray tried to turn and give the T sign with the hands for the timeout as the Hawkeyes get the steal.
Settles got Lindemann into the air. Now he gets his own rebound. Lindemann fouls him. second foul on Lindemann.
Lindemann did a great job of what you would teach, which is stay flat-footed and be able to keep your hands straight up and deflect the ball as it goes up. From up above, look at this, a great angle, deflection, settles. Now you take a shot in between two players, looks like he may have been fouled. Now watch Lindemann, straight up, he waits for the ball to come to him, and he gets called for the foul.
And prior to taking these free throws, Settles walking a bit gingerly, and of course his back has been bothering him. He says right now at 80%, playing with that back brace. He dropped through his 11th point. He didn't know Settles was hurt, though. You couldn't tell the way he plays. For the second time this year, he's been named the Big Ten Player of the Week. Also made the all-tournament team at the Rainbow Classic and really opened some eyes. A lot of pro scouts in attendance there. They had to be impressed.
Oh, there were about 26 there. I had a chance to talk to a couple of them. They said, you look at Settles, you don't think he's big enough, you don't think he's quick enough. He says all he's going to do is play at the next level for a lot of years.
Henderson gets Bowen into the air, can't finish it off, and the ball is tipped back home. Lindemann with his third hoop on the tip-in. Exactly 5 left in the first half.
And the Hawkeyes have shown the patience that they showed in Hawaii. They really waited for things to break down defensively by other teams. This is Kenyon. You talk about a breakdown.
I don't know if it was that great a fake. Evans was on the deck.
Evans just has not been in sync in this game at all.
No, has not scored. Has been beaten defensively. Off the baseline, Charlie Miller, the freshman from Miami, with his first 2.
Charlie Miller, a left-hander. He and Brian Evans, 2 left-handers on this team. The only other one was Calvert Cheney, a Bob Knight recruit.
Bowen tries to go against 3 Hoosiers in the block by Lindemann, but he gets it back and puts it in. The freshman sticks right with it to score.
The quickness there, the little head fake, quick spin, opened himself up as Lindemann went for the fake. That's an over and back.
It is an over and back because Charlie Miller was straddling the midcourt line when he got the feed.
Indiana players coming over the line and stopping.
And that Bob Knight glare was not at the officials. It was at Charlie Miller for not knowing where he was on the floor. 3 minutes and 57 seconds left to play in the first half. All season long, it's such a wide-open Big Ten race. You know that eyebrows are going to go up when scores are announced in arenas around the country. I bet this game is raising some eyebrows right now.
Well, they certainly are. This is going to be a mix master from top to bottom.
Bob Knight is yelling at his ball club. He hasn't liked anything they've done thus far. We'll return to Carver Hawkeye Arena in just a moment. Opportunity for a look at 3 of the top 5 scorers in the Big Ten Conference tonight in Henderson, Settles, and Evans. But the story and our Northwest Bank quick stat, Mac, is what's happened so far.
Well, Settles has had a game. Henderson's participating, and absent without leave is Brian Evans. So 0 out of him.
Skillett, Glasper, Woolridge, Bartles, and Bowen on the floor. Settles opens on the bench in this particular segment, although he did start tonight with Bartles ailing with a bad back.
Now the Hawkeyes just one of their last 8, Indiana 3 of their last 3, but it's got to be the defense of Indiana that's going to get them back into this game. They have given Iowa some pretty easy scoring opportunities.
Indiana has played even with Iowa since we had that break when Randy Drury, the official, had to leave the floor with heart palpitations. Since then, it's been an even ball game with no real rhythm by either ball club. Evans clears the rebound.
Well, Steve Hart now has really gone in to play the point guard position. As we said, Neil Reed has sat down, and Hart, more experienced, has seen the Iowa pressure. Very athletic, not a good offensive player.
Neil Reed, a typical freshman, played poorly early in the season, had a good middle stretch, has played poorly the last 3. Now Bartles, what hustle by Andre Woolridge to get Bartles the easy deuce.
Evans gets back 1-on-0, but Iowa recovers, and he does not even look for his famous 3-point shot.
Skillett hustling for the loose basketball. Verl Sell spots a foul on him. First foul on Kevin Skillett. For the Hawkeyes, it's team foul number 4. The Hoosiers have been called for 8. Indiana, a team that has been to the free throw line more times this year than any other team, has not shot a free throw in this game. Coming in, they'd attempted 365. Hawkeyes were next at 342. This is Indiana's first try.
Well, they've really not been very patient getting the ball inside. Normally where you would get foul situations, they've taken some floating shots, one dribble shots.
This telecast presented by the authority of the Big Ten Conference Incorporated and is intended solely for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or the use of this telecast without the express prior written consent of the Big Ten Conference Incorporated is prohibited. Lindemann with 8 of the Hoosiers' 20. Imagine that, Indiana 20 points at the 2:34 mark in the first half.
Hey, we've seen some strange things in the Big Ten. That's what you're talking about. I would like to be Minnesota at home and score 14 points and a half against Texas Southern. And there have been some unusual scoring situations.
It's been an odd race. Patterson going for the block. And on the alternating possession on the jump ball, as he was able to get the tie, Indiana gets the basketball. Hawkeyes enjoying a 15-point advantage now, led by as many as 17. Murray in, skill it out. It's a good round of applause. He has a basket in this ball game, has contributed some good floor play, and everybody's played defense well. Evans, Miller, back to Evans, who still hasn't scored. Third rebound by Bowen.
Cannot finish. That's been the total difference of this game. Indiana has had the shots and cannot finish.
The putback by Bowen, but Burrell blew his whistle first.
And again, you're seeing Kenyon Murray challenge, taking the ball to the basket. Against BYU Hawaii, he made a huge three on the baseline late in that game. It was not a pretty game the Hawkeyes won. And then against Arkansas, the talented team they have, got 23 points, and he's playing with a lot of offensive confidence.
Bob Knight and his freshman, Andre Patterson. As you mentioned, he's one of the outstanding young players in the country last year, a top 5 for National Player of the Year. Kenyon Murray has scored 2. Great point distribution by the Hawks tonight. 9 players have scored. Settles leads the way with 12. And Iowa's now 2 out of 4 from the foul line. 2 teams that get to the foul line a lot, and neither team has in this ballgame. We've seen a total of 6 free throws shot. Henderson reports on for Indiana.
And the reason for that is both coaches teach good fundamental defense of keeping the hands off. Tom Davis has always tried to play position defense. Bob Knight always playing good team help. Therefore, you don't try and challenge the baskets or the gap areas, and you don't get fouled as much.
Murray, who had been really improved on his free throw shooting, goes 0 for 2 in that stretch. Another jump ball. This time it's the Hawkeyes. Iowa working so hard to score on inbounds plays. Let's see if they're going to be able to accomplish something here.
Alan, you got Murray. You got Murray.
Kingsbury, Bartles, Settles, setting up front, and then it's Woolridge along the back line.
Indiana will probably try and jam it in the middle and give something on the outside.
Kingsbury, 3! His second 3, and Iowa's lead swells to 18. This is their biggest.
And Charlie Miller could be in trouble. Able to get rid of it.
Knight with a bounce pass that's intercepted by Settles.
And now a timeout as Kenyon Murray got hit in the face, I believe. Just a injury timeout. Make a substitute.
A couple of stitches in Hawaii, and now gets banged up again.
Out of bounds play. Pat Knight does not challenge the three-point shooter. Gives Kingsbury a little room. Or it's King Kingsbury, I'm not sure.
Murray to the end of the bench to be attended by John Streif, Iowa's trainer, who used to work with Bob Knight back in the early days of his career when he was at West Point. That was football trainer.
Or as John Streif would say, Bob Knight worked with me.
That's true. Ed Crowley also worked with Bob Knight on that staff at West Point many years ago. The pass, Woolridge to Settles.
No reaction by Todd Lindemann. Indiana defense confused on the play. Settles wide open.
105 and a terrific first half for the Hawkeyes. Here's Henderson coming up big. We mentioned how he'd been shut out for so long. Now he has come back and scored 8 points.
But he's got to find help. I mean, there is no help out there for him now, whether it's ball handling, passing, and of course Evans, nothing on his stroke.
Kingsbury, one of the few times he's off on his stroke. Well, it's been a battle of alley-oops the last couple of exchanges, Mac. The Hawkeyes started it.
Yeah, here you see Woolridge with the alley and Settles with the oop. I've got this one. That's 2 for you, babe. And at the other end, Patterson looks. He's not squared up to the basket. He's no offensive threat. The only thing he can do is throw that. Henderson goes and gets it among Hawkeyes.
That was a great catch and move by Henderson.
That was a great get there.
Pat Knight against Settles' pressure after the foul on Settles. Now this is the freshman, Michael Herman out of Chicago, trying to bring it up.
Well, Michael Herman was the rave last year in Chicago. A great guard. People have not seen a guard they thought that talented for quite a while coming out of Chi-Town.
The rare shot by Pat Knight. And the often seen finish by Alan Henderson.
And the Hawkeyes have 18 seconds now. See what they can do. 16-point lead. You can look for Woolridge to control this. He will take it down until it gets inside. 7 seconds and go.
The sophomore who doesn't play like one, plays like a much older player. Oh, good execution. Bartles on the soft turnaround to give the Iowa Hawkeyes a huge lead at intermission. The Iowa Hawkeyes, who have lost 6 in a row to Indiana, have opened a 42-24 halftime lead. And we'll return to Carver Hawkeye Arena following these messages.
And then Illinois doing what you'd probably expect against Ohio State.
I think one of the great stories of this ball game, and the reason Iowa is leading, is that Iowa has played 9 players. They've all scored. Indiana's had scoring from very, very few people and none from Evans.
Now, they've really had trouble just finishing off. They've had some good opportunities, but they've done some things that I think are very uncharacteristic of Indiana. They've taken float shots, off-balance shots. They have just not come out and stuck the ball right in the hole like they have with people like Damon Bailey and Pat Graham and Todd Leary of last year. And they've had great shooters over the years. Yeah, they just have not got on track.
It's true. When you graduate that trio, suddenly your shooting is not as good, and that shooting becomes more vital. An interesting statistic bears that point out.
Right, when you look at their wins, they shoot 50%, three-point percentage is 41%, turnovers just at 14. Now that's for a whole game. When they lose, you can see it goes up on the turnovers and down with the percentage, which you'd expect. But take a look at this. When you start saying what's happening here, they have already gotten 14 turnovers in one half. Amazing. And 37 percentage points from the field. Iowa 53. And Iowa's been at that 50 level for the last 3 or 4 games. They are playing very well with a lot of confidence.
The Hawkeyes are on the floor warming up for the second half. The Hoosiers have not yet appeared. I would imagine right now that Bob Knight is peeling some of that pink paint in the visitors' locker room.
I don't think there's any question that he's going to have a second half team. I expect to see a different Indiana. Unquestionably, they cannot play, I don't think, like they are in that first half. They really had trouble, and the freshmen struggled. I don't care in this league, when you're a freshman, you're going to have trouble.
You talk about confidence, and you mentioned how important that is. The Hawkeyes has got to be soaring after finishing second in the Rainbow Classic and now this halftime lead.
Well, when you really look back at the win, they beat Duke. That's a 4-letter word to any Iowa fan. And then you've got to look at Hawaii. That was like a Big Ten game. The atmosphere was very reminiscent of like an NCAA tournament. I mean, the Hawaiian fans were into the game. The band was loud. And then to play Arkansas, really a talented team, to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. And Iowa played well in every one of those games. And every player stepped forward and did something a little bit better and different. Andre Woolridge became the man at the point guard position. They had to play without Settles, who had foul problems. So they had different ways to learn how to win and play well. And it's all carried over into the opening night of the Big Ten. I'll tell you, eyes are opening up across the Midwest right now with this one.
No question about that. Now, let's go to the leading scorers, because for the Hawkeyes, Settles leads the way. Henderson hasn't had much help for Indiana.
Lindeman's got 8 points, and of course, Settles 14, and Kingsbury 6 on 2 threes.
And the second half of the Iowa-Indiana game coming right up. They did it a lot of different ways, inside, outside, and certainly off hustle.
Well, again, the high post pick. The ball drops off into the corner. Woolridge cannot touch it, and it's Monteir's move, being able to get himself open, being able to challenge big people to get that one to go down. And then it becomes, again, a loose ball situation. Woolridge gives the flip pass as Bartles bank gets another deuce.
6 first-half assists for Andre Woolridge.
And here it is Chris Trayberry with another 3.
That's it, Trayberry.
Trayberry.
And a nickname has been born as Chris Berry's another one.
The
Bob Knight just now coming onto the court here at Carver Hawkeye Arena. He and his veteran assistant Norm Ellenberger staying in the locker room after he had sent the team out. Would you like to have known what he said at halftime?
Yes.
And if you'd edited it, you probably could have got maybe 13 seconds of it on television.
I was going to say the soundbite could have been a little exciting. Let's see what we find with Indiana right away. See if there's any changes offensively or defensively. Andre Patterson does start. So it's over and back right away. One freshman to another freshman. And you are seeing 4 freshmen for Indiana on the court.
Henderson, the veteran. And then it is Reed, Herman, Miller, and Patterson.
I'm a little surprised Lindemann's not out there. Lindemann in the first half has 8 points and 5 rebounds, and he gave great effort. He does have 2 personal fouls, but I wouldn't think that would be enough to set him on the bench.
Hawks are starting this half the way they started the game. Bartle's not starting for the first time this season because of a tender back, but of course he did play in the first half.
That's a no-look pass by Herman with no results.
Kingsbury 2 of 7 at three-point range tonight, and Iowa once again doing a job on the boards.
You just saw some maturity right there. Woolridge says, wait a second. Now let's get what we do best, which is be patient and break down the opponent. And the Hawkeyes moving. A lot of people don't understand the perimeter offense of the pass, but what they are trying to do is see if Indiana will make a foolish mistake, give you an easy opportunity.
This has really been effective tonight. Shot clock is at 10. As Woolridge, with his penetration, is fouled.
Get a chance to look at the long tray. You see how far Kingsbury is behind the line. That gives you a deep rebound. Many times the threes, hardly any of them just trickle off the rim. They come back deep. Woolridge lift his left hand, say, wait a second, under control.
Andre Woolridge, whose game gets better night in, night out. You see that performance against Arkansas, just typical of the way he played on the islands. In fact, he almost single-handedly propelled Iowa to a victory against BYU Hawaii.
He did just down the stretch the last 6-7 minutes. He took over that game. And physically, he matched up well against Arkansas's pressure, used his shoulders to just ram into the defense, and went down the court understanding where the pressure was because he had him on his hip and shoulders the whole way.
Herman darts quickly to the basket, now finds Patterson for the jam. Andre Patterson, the Mr. Basketball in the state of Texas, the 5A Player of the Year.
Kingsbury was wide open underneath, a difficult angle to throw the ball, but he did have the opportunity against Herman.
Kingsbury being guarded by Neil Reed. Woolridge working against Herman.
The play was broken down. Woolridge brings it out again. There's time to reset.
With this kind of a lead, the Hawkeyes have no reason to rush into any bad shots. Woolridge. And Kingsbury right in the middle. Got banged from behind. Charlie Miller. And the officials take a momentary timeout as Bartles is about to check in. Let's get another look.
I think the clock is wrong as far as the score. Excuse me, the scoreboard is wrong. Maybe not. The clock went out. 35-second clock.
Patterson there, and along with Miller. Patterson called for the foul. That's his third.
The foul charge, number 45 for Indiana.
Now, if you joined us late, only 2 officials working the game now. Randy Drury had to leave with heart palpitations. He left at the 8-minute mark in the first half, so that means that Jody Sylvester and Burl Sell having to work this game by themselves without the third official.
And we have a clock out in front of the Indiana bench, which is their shooting half.
And so we got a timeout while Jody Sylvester tries to explain to the Hoosiers what's going on with that clock situation. It's Iowa 43, Indiana 26. We'll be right back. In a row, so call that number 1-800-IOWA-HOOPS for more information about the 1995 Iowa Hawkeye basketball camp for boys ages 10 to 17.
As you look at Bob Knight, he talked about the preseason conference, and he said you can't really devise a non-conference schedule that duplicates your day-to-day challenge of the Big Ten, and I'm not sure you'd want to if you're a coach, but it's brutal as Iowa goes against Indiana, then at Michigan State, at Michigan, home Purdue. I don't know if you'd want to duplicate that in December.
You're right, you'd have nothing left if you did duplicate it. You know, you look at the Iowa schedule, of the 30 opponents they're going to play this year, 21 were in postseason play last year. The shot clock Not operating at either end to make it fair for both ball clubs. Here's Kingsbury wheeling on the turnaround. What a move by Kingsbury. 8 for Kingsbury.
So when the one shot clock went out, both of them now have to go out. As you indicated, to be fair to both teams, and they will get a verbal call when it winds down. Of course,
Kingsbury with his first foul.
Iowa really watches that. Andre Woolridge, the point guard of Montero Glasper, they will have specific set calls at about the 15-second level.
And last turnover brought Bob Knight off the bench like somebody had set his seat on fire. Here is Kingsbury wanting to penetrate. The strip by the Hoosiers and Henderson.
It's 5-on-1, and they get nothing out of it. Like we said, no finish.
Patterson on the turnaround.
Secondary finish.
Andre Patterson, who had a high of 19 in his freshman year against Tulane, scoring his 6th point of this game. It's Iowa by 17, and you're right, the Hawks have been using that shot clock so effectively, then Ebba Dark's got to hurt them. Indiana, on the other hand, they need to score a lot in a hurry, so the shot clock's not going to affect them, it being out.
You like to feel a rhythm. You like that comfort level. And, of course, Bob Knight right now, maybe doesn't have a lot of comfort level in Carver Arena. Right there you saw Jim Bartles drive to the basket. I think had he had a good back, he'd have challenged and gone right to the rack. Instead, he gave up a little flip pass because I don't think he'd really trust that back right now.
Let's see, we've had an official go out. We've had a shot clock go out. Makes you wonder what's going to happen next as you look at Jim Bartles.
Well, we know we can't have a lightning storm and rain.
Too cold for that.
If that happens, I want out of here.
Almost 3 minutes have been played in the second half. Hawks have never trailed. Woolridge clear, lane to the basket, but he can't finish, and Henderson has the rebound. Henderson, one of the all-time great players in Hoosier history. And Bob Knight is chagrined by the way his team has played, and now the veteran makes what is really a silly turnover.
I kind of said it all on Bob Knight's face there. It's like, what is going on out here?
Indiana had come in with a 6-game winning streak. They lost only to Kentucky since their 1-3 start. But tonight, the Hawkeyes have dominated almost from the start. Bartles gets the bounce. His first in the second half, his 8th of the game.
Nice play, well conceived. Open Bartles up in the middle for a little turnaround. Is that harassing defense, huh?
Henderson, the lone senior on the floor. The 4 freshmen. Indiana having a bundle of turnovers. There will be 3 conference game stretches. They won't commit this many.
That's right. I'll tell you, Andre Patterson tonight is playing like one of those freshmen where you see he's trying to do everything right, everything the coaches have taught him for 6 weeks, and he's not reacting to the game. He's thinking about what to do.
You're a freshman, you can think you're prepared, but somehow when the conference bell rings and you get to the next level, it's a lot more difficult. It's a different story. We got to go back to the Iowa defense, which is the story of this ballgame. Henderson, the big gun for Indiana. Hawks know that. They give him attention.
Watch here the attention that the ball draws. I don't care if it's Henderson or anybody else. The ball draws all the attention. Everybody fronts other people. No place to go. And now they're saying the ball belongs to Indiana. Hawkeye fans can't believe it because they said that Indiana threw the ball back in bounds. And they stepped on the end line.
And then Bartles is called for the foul. It will be his first.
Coaching staff is trying to figure that one out. I mean the Iowa coaching staff.
The second half has really been one devoid of rhythm or momentum. Both teams just kind of struggling along. Iowa, though, holding their biggest lead up by 19 as Miller inbounds for the Hoosiers.
If you struggle along, you want to be Iowa struggling along with the clock moving.
And up by 19. Miller can't get it back. Now Herman goes baseline. Blocking foul called on Bowen. Crowd was sure that it would be whistled against Miller.
Ryan Bowen now has to wonder. He's had a couple good position situations that have been called against him. Now watch, see him, a nice ball fake. Now Bowen retreats, sets himself. I don't know, you'd have to plant nails in his feet to be any more set than that.
And Skillet comes up with it for the Hawks. 15:45 to go. Iowa tries to go to a more than 20 advantage, but they turn it over, and the Hoosiers get the ball back.
And that's a good call by the official. That's one that they've stressed this year, a point of emphasis, that you get the ball released before you take that first step.
15:44 left in the ball game. Bob Knight, looking at the scoreboard clock, thought a timeout was going to be called.
Yeah, well, see what happened now behind the backboard. You got an operator up on the clock. Now, I don't think it's probably fair either that Indiana shoot at that. So Bob Knight says, hey, guys, come on over. And the officials are going, no, we're going to go ahead and play. Now they say, no, we're going to take the timeout.
But he got it fixed.
And he's got it fixed.
Yeah, so now the shot clock's back, and we're going to be back right after this message from your local station. This is the Raycom Network.
This is real. I don't know if this is Ernie the electrician or Freddie the fuse, but he's got it all figured out. Okay, time to get out of here. I've had it. It was a nice view. Now watch it. I got to swing down, around, release, teamwork, and he's out of there.
And remember, he's getting verbal abuse from Bob Knight because he's doing it during play, so that's pretty nifty.
I don't think the officials were real happy with him either.
But he did his job. The shot clock is working.
Yep, officials didn't catch a out of bounds. Charlie Miller stepped back a little bit.
Henderson takes it back to the hole, and Alan Henderson's first two of the second half, 12 points in the game, 47-30. The Iowa lead 17.
Because of all these interruptions, disruptions, Iowa has really lost their continuity. And of course, Indiana hasn't had much in the first half. Now see with a little clock movement, see if the Hawkeyes can get the game back in their favor.
Bowen will earn some time at the foul line. And he did earn it. He had to work for it. And Jess Settles really set it up by getting a fine interior feed to Ryan Bowen. You see the back brace on Settles there.
And Settles starts to go up, gives the pump, releases. All the defenders watch the ball. They didn't watch Ryan Bowen slither along the baseline.
So Ryan Bowen, a 64% free throw shooter, will go to the line. The freshman from Fort Madison. It's his fifth point. Settles the leading scorer and rebounder for the Hawks tonight. Ryan Bowen, of course, has done such a good job defensively. Tonight he's added 6 points on the offensive end of things. And it's a 49-30, 19-point Iowa edge.
Little mid-court trap. And Indiana not able to break it, not able to finish it. Have to now set up in the half-court offense. And they've got to find Henderson more and more.
And that is why he has hit 2 in a row now. It's Henderson and 4 freshmen and Bob Knight. Or I should say 3 freshmen, Hart the sophomore, but Bob Knight basically standing with a pad hand. He's not making a lot of substitutions. Settles called on the walk, and the ball goes back to Indiana.
Bob Knight has to start liking what he's seeing now, as Indiana has made a couple good attempts at half-court offense and being a bit more patient and getting the ball to their man, Henderson.
Todd Lindemann, a starter, hasn't seen action in the second half. Again, he's letting the young guys and Henderson do the work. Pat Knight, who's seen a lot of playing time, not seeing any action in the second half. Henderson has hit 2 buckets in a row, make it 3.
You start to see what an All-American or All-Big Ten player can do, even when the supporting cast is not doing well.
Crowd a bit reckless as the, or I should say, restless as the lead shaved to 15.
Kenyon Murray snapped that rebound
and taken away from him by the quick Michael Herman. Indiana has the numbers. Henderson looking for his 4th straight. And it will be Iowa basketball. Last touched by Charlie Miller.
Murray just snaps the rebound, takes the 1 pump fake, turns around, and doesn't see Herman. Able to strip the ball.
Bob Knight now has made a change. Neil Reed has come in. There's nothing that Bob Knight is happy about tonight. The turnover situation. Again, he likes his team to be in the vicinity of 12. They've already committed 20.
Yep. And Iowa at 14. Fairly normal pace, maybe a little high. But surprising again, Lindemann and Evans not in the lineup. And we have seen 6.5 minutes go by in this half.
Hawks have hit their first mini scoring drought, Mac. They need some points here.
You can look, they'll try and maybe find Glasper or Woolridge. Woolridge to run the point. Glasper in here will run the off-guard position.
Shot clock down to 5. Woolridge now recognizes that fact and has to hustle. Got it!
He grew up in Hawaii in a 2-week period. And there you got to travel, and they're going to say foul on Kenyon Murray.
Second foul on Murray. Andre Woolridge continues to elevate his game. Iowa needed a basket. Shot clock running down. He gets it.
He is going to be something special. Just a sophomore, Andre Woolridge. He has a lot of the floating technique we saw years ago with Ronnie Lester, that he gets in the air, and somehow he just gets the ball in the air. It gets on the rim. It goes down. Can be a very special point guard.
Woolridge number 2 in the conference in assists. The foul called on Bowen. That's his 4th. So on a night when Iowa is short of frontline players, with Bartles playing some but ailing with a bad back, Ryan Bowen has now picked up his 4th foul. And for that reason, Greg Helmers will come in. Helmers didn't play a whole lot in Hawaii. In fact, only saw 2 minutes of action, and that against Arkansas. But with Bartles ailing, it's important that Greg step up and play more tonight.
He played a little bit in the first half, and now it's going to be important minutes for him. He's going to have to be pretty fundamental as the Hawkeyes get the turnover. Just when Indiana starts to make a run, get some confidence.
That night put it at a place Charlie Miller could never get it.
And Bob Knight says, it's not the way we drew it up.
Iowa tries to add to a 17-point lead. 12:40 remains. Murray, foul, count the bucket.
Kenyon Murray posted up, took the freshman to school. Murray, who can shoot either right-handed or left-handed close in, gets a little hook move going up, pushes it off the glass. Smart move again to go off the glass, because if you have a tendency to float or not be strong at the basket, putting it off the glass gives you a better chance to score. And now Murray looking to finish the old-fashioned three-point play.
Bob Knight has led Indiana to 3 NCAA championships. But at this moment, he must feel that this team is a long way from being talked about in that particular thought. Iowa's lead is 20. Herman, who played at 3 Chicago area high schools in his career. A late signee by Indiana with great potential as Miller hits the bucket.
He was a young man that didn't have qualifying scores, got him late in the summer. And he was considering going to Illinois, USC. Ended up at Indiana. Even left the team for a little while this year after the Notre Dame game.
Hawkeye spreading the floor well. Good spacing here.
Again, they're trying to get Indiana to overplay, give you a backdoor opportunity.
Glasper darting to the hole, foul on the way in. Todd Lindemann started this ball game, scored 8 points, played what would appear to be a pretty good half. Bob Knight didn't think so. He is not having him in the lineup at all in the second half.
Had 5 rebounds. You look at Evans to the left, the guy in the middle. Maybe he's ready to put in his assistant coach, Dan Dockich. Okay, a lot of people concerned about Iowa, whether fatigue would still be a problem coming back from the islands. But Iowa's played very well. Good rotation by the coaching staff, keeping fresh players in the game. But you still do worry about running out of gas.
Well, 3 games in 4 days and all very physical games. And then that long trip back, you do wonder. Tonight, the Hawkeyes have more than responded to that challenge.
Some people can't sleep very well on airplanes. Some people do. Andre Woolridge went to sleep before takeoff and didn't wake up till St. Louis.
There are a lot of great athletes who say that's the key, being able to relax and sleep any place, grab those little cat naps. In this case, it was longer than that, though.
Get out of there. Get out of there.
We're under 10 seconds on the shot clock. Iowa Hawkeyes trying to add an 18-point lead. Oh, what an effort by Woolridge. As he goes down, he gets it off the sneaker of Miller. 3 seconds on the shot clock as Iowa inbounds.
So it will be a catch and go up.
And the putback by Woolridge. And
What a great
count.
presence.
It didn't hit the rim. The shot clock kept rolling.
Great presence. Andre Woolridge, realizing it did not hit the iron, caught it in midair, turned and shot it. I'm not sure all these players out on the court would have done the same thing. Woolridge, great awareness.
He shows you something new every night out.
He's going to show you more and more.
Got to get another look at this one.
Settles, catches it off the side, the glance, and Woolridge catches it, quick bounce, and the flick, and again, it hits the rim and goes in.
Boy, you're right. What a heady play.
And Andre, a little happy with himself, even smiles about it, going, yeah, that was okay.
And well, he should. Bartles with his first foul. Bob Knight strolling his bench. The talented freshman, Charlie Miller, led the state of Florida last year, averaged 33 points a game. They're not exactly sure where he can play at Indiana because he plays three positions on the perimeter pretty well.
I really think he's going to be a 2 or 3, a lot like Calvert Chaney. He's got that athleticism.
Also a left-hander like Chaney. 10:47 left. Iowa leads at 56-38. Herman goes for the steal, runs out of room. Iowa coming in at 10-2 in the ratings for the first time in a couple of years at number 22 this week. Indiana, a 6-game winning streak, an 8-4 record. They're number 21 in the Associated Press poll. Settles.
Well-run play, out-of-bounds play. The man taking the ball out, got it back, and completed it with the strength of Settles.
Knight with a skip pass to Hart. And the takeaway by Woolridge. The Hawkeyes have a 4-on-2 break, but Knight gets in the way.
That's a good night right there. Hasn't been that for Indiana yet.
Herman dishes for Hart. First basket by the sophomore from Terre Haute, Steve Hart. It's an 18-point Hawkeye advantage, exactly 10 to play.
Come on, suck it up, Jay.
Settles playing with the back brace, says he's about 80% effective. Woolridge on the pull-up. And the rebound taken by Herman. Boy, you can see where he's going to fit in well for Indiana. Has a lot of skills. Woolridge got back there and was all alone. And reached out and grabbed. For Andre Woolridge, his first foul.
Woolridge was the lone man in the prairie back there.
Yeah, he was.
Not many stagecoaches coming to help him.
At the 7th foul on the Hawks, Indiana have been called for 5. That's a big story of this ballgame. The Hoosiers at the free throw line more than any team in the conference this year, 365 times. Tonight, this will be free throw attempt number 5. That's really incredible.
Yeah, it is. Again, a lot of it is due to the lack of the patience that Indiana showed, especially in the first half, rushing their shots.
Robbie Eggers into the lineup for Indiana for the first time tonight. He is a 6'10 freshman, a redshirt last year from Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Went on the tour of Argentina with Coach Tom Davis. Took an all Big Ten team this past summer, so he played with Woolridge and Murray of the Hawkeyes. Glasper against Herman. Skillett against Knight. Inside, Henderson leaning on Bartles. Woolridge now being guarded by Hart.
And Iowa using the clock, getting the clock to wind down, and then going to a call set. Two Indiana players getting each other's way.
Glasper sees an opening. Monteer Glasper has been taking it to the hole a lot this season and more effectively. And if he doesn't get the basket, he often gets fouled.
A lot more confidence in his game, and he also has gotten better because of Glasper. Not even so much they play the same position and challenge each other as you look at Bob Knight, but because he gets to play the off guard at times and allows him to do just what you said, which is look for more offensive opportunities without facing the entire defense.
Next Indiana foul will put Iowa in the bonus situation as Glasper is stuck on 2 points tonight. Monteer really had some key minutes in Hawaii against the Rainbows when Woolridge was in foul difficulty. Back fouled out.
In the last 3.5 minutes, it was Glasper all the way finishing that victory.
Iowa doing a good job in the second half on the offensive rebound. A lot of second shots in the second half.
And Iowa will look to take some more time off the clock. You can look every possession to maybe run off 20 or 25 seconds before the call. When I say the call, it'd be the play that they want to ultimately run.
Woolridge with Herman all over him. Again, that shot clock inside 10.
But you notice they don't rush. They don't panic with it.
And Woolridge takes it right to the hole. Andre Woolridge, the penetrating point, has 11.
And he just did the old one-handed, one-footed runner. He's got all the weapons.
Knight scores his first 2 for Indiana. That night, the senior season for him. He and Henderson, the only seniors on the Indiana roster. But Knight is the only player on the roster who has ever lost to the Hawkeyes. He had been redshirted after his freshman year. Henderson then came aboard and has never lost to Iowa, so only Knight has lost to Iowa. In fact, he's the only guy in the Indiana roster who's ever lost in the Assembly Hall. Because that's the last time the Hawkeyes beat Indiana. Second hoop for Glasper.
The Hawkeyes have been very methodical after they got the great run in the first half. They've been patient and tried to find their opportunity. As here at Glasper, just pure hustle. Gets this ball. And Jim Bartles
scores it for the Hawkeyes.
And Jim Bartles, you can tell, obviously he's hurt. He would have normally gone up with a dunk. Just laid it up, didn't want to jam his back anymore.
The lead at 20 at almost the 7-minute mark, and now the crowd senses it. They sense it may be too late for a Hoosier comeback. Bartles on the foul. It's one thing Iowa wants to stay away from now. Fouling and not letting the clock run, because that's one thing that Iowa wants to see happen. You see Bob Knight red in the face as he talks, and I use that term advisedly, with his son Pat.
Well, he was really upset with the fact Pat did not get back, did not hustle after the loose ball. Glasper and Bartles, both of them, beat Knight to it.
Knight's face is red, and it's not because he has been in Hawaii in the past week.
But we're down to 2 officials because one of them had a little rapid heart rate. Right now, Bob Knight may be in that same classification.
And he looks like he could tear a few hearts out of some of his players. There's a big story there. Not necessarily the number of free throws shot, but the fact that Indiana has not had the opportunity.
Well, both these teams make more free throws than their opponent shoots.
Bob Knight told us earlier today he thought this team might be able to contend for the Big Ten championship. But now he's kind of wondering because it's Iowa by 19 points. Hawkeye Arena, it has been all Iowa tonight, and for the main reason, the Hawkeyes are getting to the loose balls. They seem to be hustling more.
Indiana, the story of the night, doesn't finish the opportunity inside. Loose ball, and Pat Knight trails, and of course, Bob Knight not happy with that as Bartles finishes it off. And now, father-son discussion.
Whew. Wow. Don't have to adjust the tint. His face really did turn that red.
And now Henderson takes a seat. So right now you've got players out there, quite honestly, cannot score. Not in this game the way it's gone.
And Settles is fouled. His 7th rebound to go along with 16 points. And the foul called on Patterson. Alan Henderson on the bench for the Hoosiers. He's their 12th all-time leading scorer, the number 4 rebounder. Bob Knight's got him on the bench right now. Henderson can't do it alone. He's not played poorly tonight, but hasn't had any help.
Well, and Evans, looking at the donut for the night, he may not get a point.
Henderson continuing to play with 4 fouls. And again, the Hoosiers turn it over.
Some fans out there wondered about the Hawaii trip. Did they catch Duke on a lucky night? Were they able to squeak by Hawaii, come up with every negative thought, while other people were looking at the other side of it, saying, hey, they outplayed Duke, gave a great game against Hawaii, the home team, and then played Arkansas tough. Now you're starting to see which team maybe was really out there. This Iowa team can be a pleasant surprise.
Well, Ray reviews from act number 1, the pre-conference schedule. Now, the curtain has gone up on the conference portion. Act number 2 of the 3-act play that you hope, of course, the 3rd act would be the NCAA tournament. So far, Ray reviews here. But that's almost in Kingsbury's range.
Now that would have been a 35-foot shot.
That's why I said almost. Well, one thing about Chris Kingsbury, he never met a shot he doesn't like, and he's not bashful.
That was long.
Michael Herman brings it up for Indiana. The one thing about this league this year is what you're seeing tonight is an Indiana team not playing well. This is an Indiana team that can probably win any place at home, or certainly where they've got the nation's longest home court winning streak. They can go on the road to win any place. Tonight they're not. It's just one of those nights that's going to be one of those leagues.
And I don't know how they could not call that goaltending at the other end. I know there's only 2 officials working, but goaltending's goaltending.
Settles 18 points and 7 rebounds.
And Iowa gets it right back on a nothing turnover.
Iowa's 6-game losing streak against Indiana is about to come to a close. Last year, the Hawkeyes came close to ending that long Indiana home court winning streak. They lost at Bloomington by 2. The last Iowa win was at Bloomington. That's the last time the Hoosiers lost at home.
And before you really say there's a funeral in Bloomington, Indiana, there is not. This Indiana team will win a number of their games. And before you get too excited about Iowa, you got to maintain a little thought composure, because what was it, Thanksgiving, everybody's talking about Minnesota, unbeatable, gonna run away with the Big Ten because of their Great Alaska Shootout wins. You have to play every game one at a time with the same type of intensity. Iowa has got a string of 4 in a row going right now.
Kingsbury, nice dish for Bowen. The Hawkeyes are having some fun now as they lead at 68-49, 4.5 left to play. Again, Henderson out of the lineup right now for Indiana. I think Bob Knight just throwing in the white flag there. Settles, nice effort. 2 road games coming up for the Hawkeyes next, both in the state of Michigan. That's a tough 2-game swing. They go to Michigan State on Saturday. That'll be seen on regional television. We'll be back with you next Wednesday night from Ann Arbor.
Jess Settles going out, and of course with just 4 minutes, 7 seconds, probably not a bad move. He's got a bad back, but the trouble is the substitute that comes in going to be Jim Bartles, and he's got a bad back.
Bartles says it's contagious.
And Jess says, wait a second, I thought I get to go out. Now I got to come back. So he'll be back for a few seconds, but I would expect very shortly you'll see Jess Settles set down for the evening.
Charlie Miller with 8 second-half points and 10 for the game from Miami South High School.
This summer, actually last April, Charlie Miller played in the Big Ten All-Star game. It also saw Greg Helmers, Ryan Bowen, and Kent McCausland playing the same one in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And Charlie went off for 33 points that night. Very impressive performance.
Settles goes to the bench with 18 points and 8 rebounds as Miller hits his 11th point. And into the Indiana lineup is Gene Paul. He's a freshman from Naples, Florida. At Indiana on a football scholarship, was redshirted in football, and he's now playing basketball as Jess Settles may be done for the night. And boy, he has got to feel good about his performance tonight, as does every member of the gold team tonight, as the Hawkeyes pulling out their gold uniforms. I understand they wore them in Hawaii.
Wore every game over there in the Rainbow Classic. And now you can really start to look and think ahead to that Michigan State matchup. Iowa, good success against Michigan State. Jed Heath coached last year, but he's got two great guards. If you haven't seen them play, Eric Snow and Sean Respert played together for 3 years.
Eggers with the moving screen call for the foul. How significant do you consider this? You mentioned there's going to be up nights and down nights for everybody, but yet for Tom Davis's team, how significant is this win over Indiana tonight?
I really thought it was critical, Larry, because of this situation. They come in off a great high, great confidence in the Rainbow Classic. Playing at home, you wanted to continue that. When you go on the road, you know there's adversity and going to be problems. Playing Michigan State, maybe the team's best conference, second best team. You can look at that and say, hey, I don't know if we can win it. It's going to be an even toss-up. But you didn't want to start out losing to Indiana, losing 2 on the road, and then having to come home and play Purdue. So significant, high value. This is a team that really believes in itself now. And I think a lot of the fans have come over and said, Woolridge is for real. Settles knows what he's doing. This is a pretty good team.
Glasper misfiring on the 3, skilling the offensive rebound. Again, Mac, I go back to just sheer hustle, and that's what offensive rebounding is, and that's what you're seeing from Iowa in the second half. They've simply out-hustled Indiana most of this game.
It has not been a quick Indiana team to the ball, and it has not been an Indiana team that had patience and finished off at the offensive end. While the Hawkeyes have really been in full command with the man with the ball right there, the captain of the ship, Andre Woolridge.
Gene Paul, the football player, comes off with it. Indiana ranked 21st in the country, beat Kansas to launch a 6-game winning streak. They came in here flying high, but tonight the Hawkeyes have really knocked the wind out of their sails.
In all honesty, you almost have to say, unbelievable win for the Hawkeyes in the style they did it.
It's a standing ovation now for the Hawkeyes.
I think most people anticipated something down to the buzzer, where it was going to be a free throw or a turnover or the pressure. Something was going to determine the game in the end. This one was determined actually in the first 10 minutes of play.
Settles not done. Kingsbury, Bowen back in. Helmers, Glasper, and Bartles go out. Mentioned early, Mac, that 9 Iowa players that scored and scored early, and really, as you go down the list of the 9 who played, it's really not anybody who hasn't contributed in one way or another to this Iowa victory.
And as you know, in another week and a half, they will get one more player back. That's Russ Millard. He is working out with the team. He worked out today, and they are definitely running him, trying to get him in shape. And that will even change the rotation a little bit. May change the chemistry. Coaches are going to have to be concerned a little bit about that.
It's a 20-point lead for the Hawks. We'll be right back after this message from your local station. This is the Raycom Network. The average is 19. Indiana, poor shooting night. The Hawkeyes shooting nearly 50%. Settles, as per usual, leads the way, but numbers only tell part of the story, Mac.
Well, in this case, it is the hustle. Pictures say one thing, words say another. In this case, it's Skillett at 6'2", saying, I can play with the big boys. And Iowa said, well, let's go zone. See if this bothers them a little bit more. No. Pat Knight with the answer. Bob Knight says, where was that earlier?
And the Iowa lead is 17 at 1:45. Hawks will go to 11-2.
But there are going to be nights in the Big Ten you're going to look at scores and you're not going to understand them. And this may be one of those nights that people around the Big Ten will not understand this score. Iowa just outplayed the Indiana Hoosiers.
And coaches are so big in talking about game after game. They really mean it as Carter jams on his first appearance of the night. But certainly in this league this year, no team has any choice but to take it one at a time.
And you better. There is nobody that's good enough, I think, to hold their home court and run the table and go 9-0. And by the same token, I don't know if there's a lot of teams left that can go out there and win 5 or 6 on the road. 5 losses, and you will win this conference championship.
Now some hardworking members of the Gray team will get to share in this Iowa victory over Indiana as Nate Cook, number 45 out of Ames, John Fritzl, number 50 out of West Des Moines Dowling, come in.
Well, we just promised the fans if Fritzl gets a hold of it, John will look for the three-point line.
Yeah, he'll launch. He's the Kingsbury of the Gray squad as you take a look at John.
And a pretty good Italian cook, too. Fritzel's at the, yeah, he's at the line. Oh, he passed it up.
Elmer's to the hole. Now 10 Iowa players have scored. Make it 11 because Carter has scored also. So everybody who's played has scored tonight for the Hawks.
And I'll tell you, last night, if you watched basketball, you saw Purdue start out, have a good first 10-minute run, and then Michigan took care of business at home. But both teams struggled to put points up. Oh, bounce it between the legs of John Carter, and nothing.
Hey, Cook wishes he had the ball back. I think he might have done something different with it. Now also in for Iowa's great team, Michael White, and Andre Woolridge gets a standing O.
And well he should. I'll tell you, you talk to the Iowa players, and they all appreciate his skills and his ability to control the basketball, especially off the dribble. He just does not lose the basketball off the dribble.
You know, you talked at the opening of the show about point guard play. Iowa got it tonight from Woolridge. Indiana didn't get it tonight from Neil Reed.
There was the point, but no counterpoint by the Hoosiers.
Paul at the buzzer. And the Hawkeyes have down Indiana for the first time since 1991, ending a 6-game losing streak against Indiana. The Hawkeyes with a big win tonight.
Beware of the Spartans in East Lansing. You're going to see the best backcourt combination, and the quickest maybe in Resford and Snow.
It's the biggest win for Iowa over Indiana since they beat them by 20 in 1985. The final, Iowa 74, Indiana 55. This game has been brought to you by Norwest Banks to the nth degree. And by True Value. See your True Value hardware store. Help is just around the corner. The Hawks open Big Ten play with a 74-55 win over Indiana. Iowa is now 11-2. Our next game on the Iowa Network a week from tonight, Wednesday, January the 11th at 7 against the Michigan Wolverines. That's Iowa and Michigan next Wednesday. Look forward to seeing you then. We're back McCausland. This is Larry Morgan. This has been a copyrighted presentation of the Big Ten Conference.